The Bill Simmons Podcast is brought to you by FanDuel and FanDuel Sportsbook, where I will be checking out the lines relentlessly during the NBA playoffs. I encourage you to join me. There's going to be a lot of basketball in this podcast. We need FanDuel. We need those lines. Keep them coming. Whether you're working out or on the go, hydrate your active lifestyle with Body Armor Light, the low-calorie sports drink made with no artificial sweeteners and no sugar added, plus potassium-packed electrolytes, antioxidants, vitamins, and coconut water. Body Armor Light, more than a sports drink. This episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. With industry-leading technology, Rocket Mortgage not only offers 24/7 access to your loan info, but also tools, information, and expertise to help your offer compete in a crowded market. Visit rocketmortgage.com/Bill Simmons, because when you need a mortgage that fits your life, Rocket can. Call for cost, information, and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. We're also brought to you by TheRinger.com, as well as the Ringer Podcast Network. New rewatchables went up. Lethal Weapon 2. New podcast launched this week. Shea Serrano and Jinx. Oh, yeah. Shea and Jinx, Brandon Jenkins. It's called No Skips. They're just breaking down some of the iconic hip-hop albums one at a time. Download it now. Go to Spotify, download that baby, and you'll get everyone as soon as it's coming. I went on Sports Cards Nonsense with Gio and Jesse on Monday, and we broke down all of the NBA cards and the NBA playoffs and how they intersect and best bargains and all that stuff. So you want to hear me talk about basketball cards for an hour, that's the place to do it. Sports Cards Nonsense, our Sports Cards podcast, which is excellent. Coming up, going to talk to Big Wosny Lambre about a lot of basketball stuff. We're going to talk to Derek Thompson from The Atlantic about the vaccination slowdown, we'll call it. And then Sharon Stone, the GOAT. She's coming on too. What a podcast. It's all next. First, Pearl Jam. All right, Big Woz is here, Wosny Lambre. He joined The Ringer last week, and he is a Mets-Jets fan, which is near and dear to a couple people that we have here. But you're a basketball agnostic. This is interesting. This is like a generational thing. You've transcended teams. You root for excellence. You root for players. Explain yourself.
Well, what ends up happening is I'm a hoops fanatic from basically 5 years old, 6 years old, right? And it's because of Michael Jordan and Nike and Gatorade and all of them propagandizing us to believing that this guy was a god, which he basically was on the basketball court. My first, sports memory is the 93 finals. I was 6 years old, and I remember my older brother and older sister being distraught. And I remember being confused, like, how could anybody root against Michael Jordan? And then I realized, well, they're miserable Knicks fans. So later on, I realized why they were so pissed off at Jordan. But yeah, I was so obsessed with hoops from an early age, and I wanted to be excellent at hoops. And Jordan defined excellence, right? Ron Harper and Greg Anthony didn't really inspire that in me as a New York City aspiring point guard, right? So, yeah, I was a Jordan guy. I rooted for Jordan. When Jordan retired, I basically just started liking whatever I felt like was fun to watch, and that was it. But everybody in my life are huge Knicks fans.
Well, that was an amazing decision. I mean, some would argue that's probably your smartest decision. You think of all the Knicks pain you avoided. Like, it would have been the last 20 years of your life would have sucked.
Well, I compounded that problem by becoming a Mets and a Jets fan. Mike Piazza absolutely is responsible for me becoming a Mets fan because I started watching baseball the summer we got Mike Piazza, and I was obsessed with Mike Piazza. So it's his fault that I'm a miserable Mets fan. Andy Chavez, salute to you. And the Jets, it was Keyshawn Johnson. When he dropped the book and he called Wayne Corbett the Jets mascot, I was like, who is this dude? I need to root for this guy. And so I became a Jets fan because of Keyshawn Johnson, Just Give Me the Damn Ball, Big Tuna, the whole thing. Neil O'Donnell, it was like right as we were getting out of Neil O'Donnell, we brought Vinny Testaverde's old ass in. and he was killing. Vinny Testaverde is partly responsible for why we have instant replay. He scored on a QB sneak against the Seahawks, and it was his helmet that went over the line and not the ball, and everybody was up in arms. But yeah, that's when I became a Jets fan, was Keyshawn Johnson, that era.
Well, this whole rooting for the player, not the team thing, I didn't really fully notice this. And I was writing about basketball through the 2000s, but when LeBron went to Miami, and I went to the first Miami Celtics game in Boston, which it was either the first or second game, I can't remember. And there were just a ton of Miami Heat fans there wearing LeBron jerseys. And I was like, my dad and I were like, what the fuck is going on? Where did Miami Heat fans come from? They've been in the league for 20 years. There's no pot. And then we realized like they were basically LeBron fans that just followed him to Miami. And I do feel like that is the biggest thing. Like when we talk about all the ramifications from the decision, that's kind of the underrated one. That was the first time fans just moved behind a player and followed that player to wherever he was going to go. And now I just feel like that's the leagues. If you love Durant, you're following to Brooklyn. And I noticed it with my son. My son really likes LaMelo Ball. He probably likes LaMelo Ball more than the Celtics. I'm not going to get upset about it. He just gravitates toward the players. But you feel like that's your generation that started?
Well, I don't think it's our generation that really started. I think with the amount of NBA games that you can get starting with the LeBron generation helps fuel that, right? It's not just NBA on NBC on Sundays where you get to watch the guy once a week. You get to follow these dudes all year round, and not just on the court, but social media, all of that stuff. Like I can speak for myself, right? In 2002, I would have been a sophomore in high school when ESPN started propagandizing me about LeBron James, this kid from Akron who, as a junior, could be the number one pick in the draft. And I myself was a high school hooper. And like all the kids that was 6'8" in high school could barely chew gum and walk at the same time, much less have handle, have hops, have court vision. Like you never saw somebody like that. So as a high school hooper, I'm watching this guy. I'm like, it can't be possible that somebody can be this good and be a high school player. And that's when I sort of fell into the LeBron thing, right? So like as a kid, I got propagandized into Jordan. And then as a teenager, ESPN just Chosen One, all of that stuff. I just fell right into it and it just, started following LeBron from then.
Yeah, I wonder. So we're going to talk some generational stuff, but I wonder if you're just a random 7-year-old right now, who would be the easiest player to gravitate for toward? And that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk about the generation stuff. We're like between generations right now.
Yep.
And you texted me. I was like, "What do you want to talk about?" And you were like, "I want to talk about this new generation that's basically about to grab the league by the balls." You can feel it potentially happen in this playoffs, but you think like I wrote some names down like Jokic, Luka, Jason Tatum. You going down the line? These
we putting Jason Tatum in?
Well, I'd like to because he's on my favorite team. I was just throwing him in there. He made the conference finals last year. But these 25 and under guys, they do feel like a distinctly different generation than the Curry generation.
Right.
And whereas like the LeBron and Curry generation, they feel like two different ones, but there's a lot of overlap with the two things. But this for the first time, these playoffs, as we're about to head into them, and I think you and I both see this, this feels like the playoffs where that new generation might grab this season by the ball. So what fascinates you just about that concept?
Well, first of all, you mentioned the decision, and I'm not going to be the first one to make this point, but that's kind of like the big bang of this era of the NBA, right? Like everything that we're doing right now follows after the decision, whether it be what KD did in Brooklyn by teaming up with Kyrie and getting James Harden over there, or just the sort of 24-hour cycle of NBA coverage. The NBA didn't become this 365 sport until the decision, right? I can remember myself being a sort of sports generalist. I was obsessed with college football. I was obsessed with college basketball. I was obsessed with MLB, NFL, et cetera, et cetera. The decision happened. And it was like, no, I'm not paying attention to anything else anymore but the NBA. This is the only thing I can think about. I remember, ESPN getting clowns for the heat index. But guess what? They made that for me. I was on that every day. I was reading Arnovitz, Windhorst, Michael Wallace, my man Tom Haberstroh every single day. That happening basically informs everything that we're doing now. And so LeBron has been the focal point of all the drama, all the intrigue in the league, whether it be what he's doing in Miami with, road games in Memphis where fans are like pissed off. And it's like, how are Memphis fans pissed at LeBron? Like that story was so nuclear. It fueled everything, right? And then he goes back to Cleveland, of course, and it becomes the coming home, blah, blah, blah. And Golden State whoops him in 15. And then in 16, he probably comes back and he, the prodigal son returns and all of this kind of stuff, delivering for that. And then, of course, he goes to LA. But in the meantime, Golden State was that thing. They took it from him. And you could tell LeBron felt a way about Golden State becoming the center of the NBA universe. But at the same time.
And Curry, too.
And
that Curry became the golden boy. Yeah.
Curry specifically. But at the same time, Golden State, and I know my Warriors friends are going to be mad at me for saying this, they undercut themselves with the KD thing because the story became less compelling when it became the inevitability of the Warriors, right? And so like the story kind of got watered down, and not that people didn't still watch because the Bay Area is so big and the Warriors was still a story. It didn't have that juice that 2016 got. And I think we're recovering from that. The fact that even if whether it were true or not, because people will say, well, that Rocket series could have went any other way. Perception-wise, nobody ever thought the Warriors were going to lose. So it sucked kind of the intrigue out of everything happening in the league. And now that we're out of that, we're coming out of that, and we're kind of in the fog of like, what's the story now? And I think the story is whether Giannis and the rest of these guys are going to finally be able to tell Bron, KD, Steph, all right, guys, step aside. We're the ones that are doing this now.
Yeah, it's interesting because this probably happens last year if we don't have the pandemic, right? It's LeBron holding on to the throne, basically. And the guys from his generation are a tiny bit later. The new generation wasn't quite ready yet, but they were ready to at least make their appearance on the big stage. But now you have some of these guys, the Murray thing hurts Denver, I think, from a big picture standpoint.
Yep.
Luka feels like he could beat anybody for one round. That's it.
Yep.
Giannis is the one, I guess, from Giannis and Embiid from the new generation. If we're talking, so the generation thing's tough because it can go one of two ways. I tried to sketch it out, trying to figure out if it was just easy to do like 10-year chunks, but
right,
like to me, like Kobe, Iverson, Garnett, Pierce, Duncan, T-Mac, Allen, Nash, Dirk. That's like a generation.
Yeah,
that's like within 4 drafts, we have this new class of people. And then same thing with like LeBron, Wade, Carmelo, Yao, Howard, CP3, all within 3 drafts or 3.5 drafts of each other, including Yao. And they all kind of come in and it feels like, all right, the league's starting to change. We're starting to get away from those 90 guys. Then you have that Durant, Russ, Harden, Curry, Love, Derrick Rose, which I guess you could say could be part of the LeBron generation, or you could just say they're their own generation. Like, I don't know how to score that.
LeBron mucks this whole thing up by extending his freaking prime to 18 years, right? Like, he's supposed to be cooked. He's supposed to be Carmelo coming off the bench, if not D-Wade sitting on somebody's inside the NBA set right now, right? But he mucks up the entire conversation by having this ridiculous extended prime, which, by the way, I don't think even LeBron knew he was going to still be able to be this good this late in his career. Because when he went back to Cleveland, the talk was, listen, I'm getting long in the tooth. I'm going to pass it to Kyrie, X, Y, and Z. Like, it felt like he genuinely thought that, but then he's like still killing people and winning finals MVPs, 2 years after even signing with Cleveland. And that changes the whole dynamic. And of course, signing with the perfect complement to what he does in AD, also helps extend that prime. But I think that's the problem with LeBron, is that he defies sort of generations because he's been the focal point since 2007. Which is insane.
So Kareem was like that because I had like the Kareem generation, which you could really call it an Alcindor generation, a Kareem generation. The Alcindor generation comes in back when he was Lou Alcindor, and it's him, Earl Monroe, Wes Unseld, Spencer Haywood, Tony Archibald, Elvin Hayes. Like, they're a distinct thing. But then the Kareem generation, when he's now Kareem, and all of a sudden it's Kareem, Doc, Cowens, Maravich, McAdoo, Artis Gilmore, McGinnis. And that kind of feels like a distinct thing. And then like Julius has his group where it's like Julius, Moses, Thompson, Gervin, Walton, Westfall, Marcus Johnson. And